From the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "The person who is trustworthy in very small matters is also trustworthy in great ones. And the person who is dishonest in very small matters is also dishonest in great ones. If therefore you are not trustworthy with dishonest wealth, who will trust you with true wealth? If you are not trusted with what belongs to another, who will give you what is yours? No servant can serve two masters. He will either hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Politics, sex, and money are topics that we generally try to avoid. In marriage, nobody wants to make a budget or stick to the budget, because that money can be very controversial. Yet in today's gospel, Jesus says you can't serve two masters. He says you cannot serve both God and mammon. So I want to talk about money today, because I don't shy away from controversy. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about money and what Jesus is telling us in today's gospel. Well, studies have shown time and time again that money doesn't buy happiness. I want to give you a few figures and facts from various surveys that point that out. Americans have on average gotten much richer over the past several decades. If you think back in the 30s and 40s, those of you who have parents or grandparents who lived then, they talked about the Depression. You know how people lived. They just barely existed. Then after the war, America became extremely prosperous. And by the 1970s, 30% of Americans said they were very happy, and the average American enjoyed about $25,000 in today's dollars of our national income. By 2004, the percentage of very happy Americans stayed virtually unchanged at 31%. So it was 30% in 1972, 31% in 2004, while the national income went up for the average American over 50% to $38,000. The story is the same in developing countries. Japan in 1958, after the Second World War, had a very, very difficult, economy. During post-World War II, Japan was transformed from one of the poorest nations in the world to one of the wealthiest. But the average happiness of a Japanese citizen, measured on a scale of 1 to 4, stayed exactly the same, 2.7. In some countries, there's even evidence that economic growth can create unhappiness. This is generally the case of nations experiencing rapid and chaotic development and thus opportunities for great wealth for the first time. And studies have shown that lottery winners and the 100 richest Americans are only slightly more satisfied than the guy toiling for his pay in the generic office complex cubicle. There's a story of a man in Corbin, Kentucky by the name of Mac Metcalf who won $65 million in the Powerball. Wouldn't we all like to win $65 million? Well, 3 years after he won his $65 million, he died at the age of 45 from cirrhosis of the liver and hepatitis because of the lifestyle that he had indulged in after winning this type of money. Now again, in no way am I devaluing the importance of money. We need money to survive. We enjoy money if we're going to do things and take vacations, but just remember that money can't be the end all. I was talking with your evangelist apologist yesterday, Tom, about this very subject. He was saying, very few people on their deathbed ever regret not having made enough money or not having been successful. What they usually lament is the fact that they've not spent enough time with their families, that they've never told their loved ones that they love them, perhaps often enough. Rich people, as a matter of fact, spend more time in high-stress activities than people with modest resources or poor people, research has found. Those with the highest incomes spend more time working, worrying, shopping, taking care of the kids, exercising, and less time relaxing and just reading a good book. We often think of the richest people who may take 6 months off a year and go to a beach in the Pacific or at St. Tropez. But no matter how much you may be told that, remember that people don't make money simply because they go on vacation. They usually are hard workers and oftentimes can even die from overwork. So what is Jesus telling us today in the gospel? You cannot serve both God and mammon. Well, we need to make God a priority. The reason why we celebrate Sunday as Christians is to remind ourselves that life has certain priorities. And for us as Christians, we believe that priority not to be a thing, but the person of Jesus Christ. So we gather week after week to refocus. We need to refocus. We're so busy. Life can be so messy for us. We're always on the go. Life is stress, and many of us are stressed out. But a morning like this makes us say, stop. Let me take a look at what my priorities are. Are my priorities God and family? Do I have as a priority to really spend time, quality time with my family? Or do I just run around from one activity to another, never taking that time to really reflect and be what God has called me to be, an image of His love, of His faithfulness? So yes, God tells us you cannot serve God and mammon. We need to have our priorities in order. And today's Mass reminds us that unless we put our priorities in order, we can make all the money we want. It doesn't necessarily bring us happiness. What brings us happiness is the only one who can satisfy the hole in my heart. His name is Jesus Christ. Let me end with the words of a philosopher who once said, making a good living and living a good life aren't the same thing. Making a good living and living a good life aren't the same thing. Do we survive and make money simply to have a good living, or do we really want to live a good life? The decision is all up to us.